This morning I was reflecting on my dad. I mentioned him yesterday. And in the last years of his life, him and my stepmom lived with me. She's still here, thank goodness. But I would be in the kitchen working every morning. And every morning he would come in and he'd say, "Good morning, my daughter. Today's a new day." And that was before. And then when he left me, he would tell me how much he loved me. It's a beautiful thing that I can reflect on now. But this idea that he would always say to people, every day is a new day. What that means to me is that no matter what messed me up yesterday, no matter what I did wrong yesterday, no matter who challenged me yesterday, that day is over. And today is a new day. Now, I'm not even worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or any of that. I am present in this moment, and today is a new day. As I say that, I would love for anybody to comment in the chat. And with that idea of my dad, today is a new day. I'd like you to say, today is a new day to whatever. Today is a new day to get to know somebody you don't already know. Today is a new day to just feel blessed and in the present moment. So if you get a chance, honor my dad and say, today is a new day, and whatever that day is for you, or maybe it's something that's going to be special for the rest of us. For me, today is a new day for me to hopefully impart wisdom and knowledge and skills to you so that we can all learn, grow, and heal together. But it's also a new day for me to receive from you. You don't know what you have given me over this process. As we look at day 12, this is work for sure, but it is a greater blessing than it is work. And so I just thank you for everything that you're putting into it, and for the ways that you're committing to yourselves. Hi, Mary. Hi, Juan. Hi, Kim. Y'all are with us, and I appreciate that. All right. So here's what we want to do. We want to go back and look at the question that we had yesterday. And remember, this whole week is about, the first week is who am I really? The second week is about what is it that can hold me back? And we're looking at this conflict resolution model because oftentimes the things that hold us back, they are patterns and trends and all that good stuff that if we identify them, we can be proactive in creating strategies to avoid them. And that's what today is all about, creating those strategies. But part of that strategy is being intentional about what we're going to think, feel, and do. Because we talked about habits. Habits are, I don't even think about it and I do it, and oftentimes it spirals me down. But yesterday you took your power back and you said, "Nuh-uh, I know this is what I tend to do, but I'm making it intentional that this is what I am going to do." And so as you stated what you were going to do, if there's anything you want to share that, like you said, "Oh man, this is good stuff. I want other people to know it," be sure to put it in the comments. Kim said, "Today is a new day to glorify the Lord." Go ahead, girl. Yes, yes. To be that light that I talk about being. I love it. So if you, today is a new day to give. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for the reminder. So as we move forward today, I just want to say to you that as we were setting our intentions for yesterday I gave you the example that I said, what are you going to think, feel, and do? And I gave you, okay, here's my thoughts, here's my feelings, here's what I'm going to do. Well, what's interesting is later in the day, I'm having this conversation with a friend, and we're actually in the process of moving, which is why you see nothing on the shelves. You see all this, the pictures are off the wall because we decided to move from where we are to somewhere else. And I said to my friend, yeah, we're going to go from where we are to probably a townhouse. And I know people might question that. And my friend was like, you worry too much about what people think. Why does that matter? And she gave me this example. She said, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, said, every room that I go in, I own. Can I tell you that thing hit me in some kind of way? Every room I go into, I own. And so when I'm thinking about, and here's the thing, I didn't tell her what the question of the day was. I didn't ask her for her feedback, but what she said fed into the activity that we were doing yesterday. And so when I say I'm going to be intentional about my thoughts and my feelings and my actions, do you know, I went back to my list and I added that. I said, every room I go into, I am going to own that room. That's not a financial thing. It is the confidence, the energy, the enthusiasm that I bring into that room, that if I say that I am going to look to the light and reflect the light, that means that when I come into the room, I am light, I am lighting up dark spaces, and that is something to own and to embrace. So I don't know what it is you said that you're going to think, do, and how you're going to act. But if there's anything you want to share with the group, just sometimes the act of sharing it affirms it and it cements in our minds. So sharing it makes it real. If you want to share it, I encourage you to do it in the comments, because we are a team now, y'all. We got our own private Facebook group. We are interacting with each other all the time. That is a team, and together everyone achieves more. That's what we're about. So this idea that we've got to get past the things that will hold us back, that's the reason why we're working on the conflict resolution model. Can I tell you why I created that model? Because I struggle with conflict. I have struggled for my entire life. I don't know how to address it. What are people going to think? I'm so emotional about it. And so based on my research and based on working with hundreds of clients, I came up with this process that said, if you walk through this, it allows you to stand back a little bit. Oh, I'm making a symbol. Okay. It allows you to stand back a little bit and say, I'm going to deal with this from a broader perspective, and I'm going to work through it. Side note, my friend Celeste, when she sees this video, she's going to see I got on my Wicked shirt today. She just watched a movie, and one of the famous lines is pink goes with green. Don't we all know that? And so I wore this in honor of Celeste today. But anyway, this whole self-coaching model was created from research and working with clients so that just like me, other people who struggle with making our way through conflict would have a tool to allow you to go through it and go through it successfully. So as we go through this week, I'm asking you questions from the model and we're piecing it together, and we're looking at a generic question. The question is, what tends to hold us back in 2025? That's the conflict. And now we're figuring out how we work our way through that thing. But I want today to give you a real example of something that I worked through so that you can see what this model looks like, how you work through it. And so you put together something specific, like me and my spouse argued last night over this issue, and I need to work my way through it because what I've done in the past is not working, and it's hindering me in the future because it's all that I can think about. So I want to share my screen with you now so that you can see what is the self-coaching, one of our self-coaching models, which is what we use for conflict resolution. So with this self-coaching, with this model, it looks like this heart that I gave you earlier in the process that says in the center is conflict. It's shaped by our past and present. And what happens is we react, we pull ourselves back and say, what is the result? And then we choose a response that is more powerful. But when I'm working clients through that, I actually take them through a series of 6 questions. And those questions help them to really get to the heart of the matter. No pun intended, maybe it was intended. So the first question I really ask people is, what's causing you pain or what's creating conflict for you? So quickly, I want to walk you through it. I told you yesterday, transparency, my handwriting is not as good as I thought. So as well as I'm showing you what I wrote through as I worked through this like a month ago. But here it was that I had a situation with someone that they gave me feedback. And feedback isn't always a reason for conflict, but it can, especially for us, those of us who are perfectionists, who always want to get it right. Feedback hits me in a certain way because I want so much to be perfect. And you giving me feedback to change means I'm not perfect, which means I'm human, but I've got to coach myself through that sometimes. What I realized is, but why did this feedback hit me in the way that it did? And I realized as I pulled back the layers on that the way the feedback was given to me, it was very accusatory. It was almost as if I never did anything right. Like you did this, and this. And it was also given to me in written form. And can I tell you that if you're having a crucial conversation, don't do it in written form. You know why? Because I can write something as simple as I have a question, and in written form, it comes across as I have a question. It depends on how the person is reading it. So we got to be really careful. And it was very one-sided. It was as if I was the total problem and that person had no ownership. There was nothing they did wrong. It's just what I did wrong. And here I am like, well, wait, but I did this, and this right. And so that feedback is what was causing me conflict. Hope that makes sense. And so I go to the next step, which is how was that conflict shaped by what happened in my past? Well, I told you, I grew up wanting to be a perfectionist. And so when you tell a perfect person that they're not perfect, whew, that can hurt. But I also grew up with self-esteem issues. I think the two are related. And so if I have low self-esteem, then you telling me that I did something wrong and I was the total source of what was wrong, that hits me in a certain way. I've always felt like I'm not part of the group and that I'm other. And when people give me conflict, making it look like I'm the whole problem, that otherness and that aloneness just sprouts its head, and I really, really struggle. And there's also an underlying thing for me that says, see, you trusted this person, you thought they were safe, and they weren't safe, because the minute they gave you feedback, because the feedback also said, well, I've been feeling this for some time. And all this time I thought we had a good relationship, but now you're telling me that our interactions, there was this underlying anger and resentment, and it fed into this belief. See, I knew it. I can't trust people at all. Again, it doesn't mean these things are right or wrong, but it allows me to see this is what's going on in my head as I process this issue. This is the reason why, folks, you can have two people who face the same issue and they handle it differently, because their past and what's going on in their present and the habits they form can be totally different. And so standing back and looking at this model is a really cool thing to do. And it's also cool to do this where you take it from the other person's perspective, where you answer some of the questions as you would imagine. Let me think what they might be thinking. And that allows you to have some empathy, but also to get back from the emotions of it. So here it is. I had this conflict. It was shaped by what I experienced in my past, or what I believed in my personality, but it was also shaped by what was going on in my present. So what's going on in my present? I just told y'all I'm moving, y'all. Can I tell you, with my moving, working a full-time job and another full-time business, and also having sciatica now, I am in pain most days. It means that sometimes I'm on edge when I shouldn't be on edge, but it's just that I'm tired. We're doing this 21-day program, which is such a blessing, but it's also work and it's also pressure. So these things, that being super busy, being tired, having lots of responsibility, when somebody gives you some feedback and it's not feedback that you want, it can be made bigger or worse, because everything that's going on in your life is not necessarily making this thing better. So again, this is the conflict resolution model. I'm giving you an example of how this can help you. So what ends up happening is what you and I have done recently, and we've said, what are the habitual thoughts, feelings, and actions that you have? For me, my thoughts tend to be, when I get the feedback, I'm dwelling on it. That's all I keep thinking about over and over again. I'm thinking about what that person said, how they've been resenting me all this time. Oh, I'm even thinking about the fact that probably everybody feels the exact same way about me. And did I tell you that when I got the feedback, it was, well, so-and-so heard it and she said this. So now I'm like, oh my God, people don't like me. They're talking about me behind my back. Those thoughts are just overwhelming me. And as a result, I'm caught in this trap of feeling guilty and angry and frustrated, and all of these negative emotions, y'all. We talked about spiraling down. Can I tell you, I was spiraling down, and quickly. And so what I do is I quickly respond back to the message, which is not always a good thing, because again, if I'm responding in writing, it's not really reflecting my intent or my heart. And also, it doesn't give me a chance to stand back from it, to pray, all of these things. And for me, when I have conflict, a lot of times I feel physically ill. I felt so ill that I had to go and lay down for a while. Understanding what we're going through, what's triggering us, and what we're doing as a result is all part of this conflict resolution model. I'm telling you this because beyond the question of 2025, I guarantee you're going to have conflict this year, and I want to help you work through it. So the next question in the model is, stand back, Denise, stand back and ask yourself, what is it that you want? ask people, what is it that you want? And with asking myself what it is I want, I said, I want to be perfect in all situations. Y'all, come on now. Wait a minute. You know what I'm realizing is you can't see the screen, can you? Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. And thank you for that feedback, Mr. Producer. Okay. So, and you know what I'll do is I'll add this to the Facebook page. I'll have my team add this so you can actually see my answers. This is me being vulnerable though. So let me just tell you, I'm vulnerable, but it's not like I stay in this place. This is what I need to work through when I have conflict. So I've told you that I got feedback. It was accusatory and one-sided. It ignited my self-esteem issues. I've got things going on in the past and the present that are making this worse. So I said, what is it that I want as my result? I want to be perfect. But a result is something that you can control. And can I tell you that being perfect is not something that's in my control? So instead, I said, I don't want to be swayed by other people's comments, right? I don't want to be swayed by their opinions. But I realized that's putting it in really a negative light. And so I said, I need something that's going to empower and uplift me. So in the end, I decided I want to redeem the good from all situations. When somebody tells me something good about me, I want to find that good and latch onto it. And when they tell me something that needs to improve, I want to latch onto that as well. I want to say, you know what, this is good. This is good that I learned like the character of that person. It's good that I learned that this had been bothering that person so I can find a way to work through it. And so being able to go through this process was really, really important. I want to take you now just to the very last page, because for me, I always try to look at the big picture of anything. And so the last question in the model is, now that I know what my result is, what is the response that I'm going to choose? And for my response, for the result, I also have to remind myself my purpose is to look to the light, reflect the light, and be light. So I'm not carrying stuff I don't need to carry. In the past, what I would have done is carried the anger of this and the resentment. That's no good for me. So I decided that this is what I'm going to do. And I worked through this model, but I went back and I updated it for 2025. So that's the reason why you see the purpose is to look to the light. And I said, what am I going to do 2025 when people give me feedback that hurts me or I feel like harms me and is unfair? That first, I'm going to be still. I will pray, asking God for forgiveness and guidance. The second thing is I'm going to be sure. I'm not going to condemn myself, but instead I will acknowledge if I did anything right and then determine what I can do better. And then the third thing I'm going to do is be present. I will listen, check for understanding, and then speak my truth in love. Because I think that's important. And I'll do it either face-to-face, by Zoom, or a telephone call. I am no longer getting into these back and forth battles via text and email. So I'm hoping that you get a sense from this of me actually working through the model. Sorry, I thought I had it on the screen and I didn't, but I'll ask them to put it on the Facebook group for you so that you can see what it said. I mean, how you work through a conflict. But the question I want to ask you, and if you're willing to put it in the comments, is how do you do it working through conflict? What is it that you do to pull yourself out? What is it you do to make things a little better? Because I think that we can really, really learn from one another. As you're putting comments in, I want to look at some of the comments and say, hi, Rose. I hope you like my shirt that I have on today. I see your mom. I truly understand what you're saying. I am dealing with that at this moment. Yes. And I think there's a reason why we share things at certain moments, because somebody, you never know. My prayer is always, if there's just one person who needs to connect to this, let me know that. And then your mom said also, but what if you're not the problem and the things that are being said is exactly. Sometimes that's actually, it's possible that you're not the problem. What I do in looking at every conflict is I say to myself, there has to be a little piece of that I could have done better. Maybe I could have communicated something better. Maybe I could have done this. And I am willing and able to own my stuff. But let me tell you what I did in the past. Quickly, I owned my stuff and I allowed people off the hook for their stuff. And what that did is it resolved it in the moment and we got past that hard moment, but it did not resolve the resentment that I felt as a part of it. And so what I've learned now is, number one, I learned to speak my truth from a place of love. I apologize. Here's what I will own, but I don't own this piece of it. And then I've learned that whereas a reaction, it is habitual and it's without thought. In my response in owning that, it is not dependent on how you come back at me. So if you come back at me and say, well, I didn't do anything at all, I'm not even getting mad at that because I've spoken my truth to you and I'm leaving that at the door. Sometimes what I find is that we have to create boundaries or accept people exactly for who they are. And if it's somebody that is not taking ownership for any of their stuff, I can't control that. So I love them for who they are, but I'm not going to let them burden me with their stuff that is not mine to carry and is not true. It's not a perfect situation. I still work my way through it. Sometimes I have to go back and recoach myself through it. All right, Denise, remember, you disagree with what they're saying. You are not who they made you out to be, and you are not going to accept that part of it, but you are going to get better at this part of it. So that's what I think. And if there's any other comments on working through conflict, any questions you have for me, please, please, please be sure to ask those questions because I want to address them as much as I can. And I just want to make sure that I've gotten everything in the chat. That all leads us to the question for today. Yes, yes, yes. So what I've told you is one of my tools for dealing with the things that are going to come against me in 2025, the things that can derail me, is that I'm going to go to the self-coaching model on conflict resolution. And the reason is, I realize I'm being triggered. I realize I'm doing some behaviors that are not good for me. Let me work through this as a conflict. And sometimes it takes a minute. It took me several minutes to explain that to you, but I literally have gone through that model in 60 seconds and worked my way through it and boom, go on to the next thing and decide I'm not going to be mad about something that I shouldn't be mad about. So one of my tools is a self-coaching model. But for you, you have other tools available in your resource toolkit. So the question for this day is, what will I do when oh man, I'm sorry. I want to say it right. Oh yeah, I did this right. I was like, what am I doing? What will I do when I realize I've been triggered? What will I do when I realize I've been triggered? So I know that in that situation I gave you, I realized I was triggered and I separated myself from it for a minute so I could work through the self-coaching model. But you have people in your life that can help you. You have philosophies in your life that have worked for you before. You have resources that you can tap into. And so when you're answering that question, I want you to say, I'm going to talk to my therapist or my coach, or I'm going to go on Google or AI and research what's a good way to do this. I am going to set up strategies that allow me to succeed and not to fail. Success is I get better. I get better day by day. I put something in on our Facebook page about my only competition is me. So if I'm better than I was yesterday, then I'm better today, period. So I want you to name what you're going to turn to, who you're going to turn to, what you're going to do when you realize that you have been triggered. Because if we know already that it's going to rain outside today, we're going to take an umbrella, right? We're going to be prepared. So if you know there's always going to be triggers in life. And if you know that, then we're going to prepare so that we can overcome that in 2025. This is a process, y'all. We're doing it together. And I just love that. I just love this group. So Kim says, being doubtful in my career search, which is causing frustration. Yeah. So when you're struggling with that, now we're figuring out, how do we deal with that doubt? And can I say to you that if you have a specific conflict that you're saying, I want to work my way through this and figure out what that looks like, I can hook you up with, connect you with one of our coaches for a free 15-minute session. And in that session, they can make sure they're giving you some feedback as to how you can do that. That is our commitment to you because we are here. Mary says, I step away from conflict to cool down and come back and discuss the situation calmly to resolve the issue. Mary, can I tell you, a lot of times when I'm dealing with folks, especially who are married, and I'm saying, you're sitting there and you're ticked off and you're trying to give them feedback, sometimes you need to walk away for a second. And then when you're in a better place, and sometimes when they're in a better place, and sometimes people don't want to do this. When you're in a better place, you don't want to risk it. But when you're in a better place, you come back and now let's address it. I've had people give me feedback, especially my sons, when they say something and I can't receive it in that moment because I'm emotionally handling it. And I say, can you give me a minute? And then I'll come back to you and I'll be ready to talk about it. So Mary, what you just said was powerful. And then Sherry says, communicate, forgive, work through. It is a process. Communicate, forgive, work through. And that forgiveness thing, I think for many of us, that's the reason why we're supposed to forgive 7 times 70. Because people are always going to hurt, offend, and do these things. And if I carry that hurt and that offense, it is a weight that distracts me from experiencing the joy. If I have my hands open to receive all that's good for me, yet in my hands is all this resentment and anger and unforgiveness, I am wasting my energy. And we're not doing that in 2025, y'all. Am I right? We are not doing that in 2025. So you've got the assignment is to answer the question about what are you going to do when those triggers arise. You're going to reflect on it. You might research it. You may ask some friends about it, and you'll come back by the end of the day and write your final answer. Last thing, today is Sunday. It is a day of Sabbath. So I am challenging you today to also find place and space to rest. Whether it's watching a TV show, it is talking to a friend, having dinner with your family at the table like we used to do, or reading a book, whatever it is that rests your heart and your mind, I am challenging you to do that today. And I will see you tomorrow. Lucky 13, day 13 will be together again. I thank you for your participation, and I'll see you soon.